And now this section is about lock poisoning, which is probably, I don't know, maybe because of the name, but it's for me the most interesting part of a mutex. So yeah, you have unwraps in mutexes, and if you have a thread panicking while holding the lock, so you've got a lock going on, and then a thread panics, then it calls it a poisoned mutex, and that means that it's not locked. And if you call lock this time, then you get an error, which is a poison error. And let's see, where is that poison error? Poison. There you go. So you get this poison error, a type of error which can be returned whenever a lock is acquired. And so this is a mechanism to. So what's interesting is I when I first saw mutexes, I thought that poison just meant like the mutex was pretty much like there's no more use for it. But there's a way to get the data back, even though it's not a good idea, but it's also it's possible. So this is a mechanism to protect against leaving the data that's protected in an inconsistent state. So it's kind of like keeping you from touching this inconsistent, maybe corrupt data by default. So in the example above, if one thread were to panic, then the mutex would unlock, and it would be left in unexpected state, and so that would be a bad thing if it didn't have that protection there. And so the way you get around that to keep it safe is you mark it as poisoned in that case, and that means that if you really want to get to the data again, you have to handle it yourself. So you're kind of taking that responsibility. And so yeah, that's the interesting part. So calling lock on a poison mutex, it'll still lock it, and it gives you this error, and that contains the mutex guard, and then you can kind of work with that. And so it says here, a lot of people when they first see lock poisoning, actually it still contains the data. Most people won't, and you probably shouldn't try to recover from that state. A better thing to do is to most code will disregard poison or use unwrap to panic, and then it'll show you that there's definitely something wrong with your data. And then this part here is kind of interesting too. So it's let's see, it's about how, when you have a guard, if you're passing a guard around, you give it a variable name. It can get kind of complex, and so the easiest way to do it is to just unwrap and push, and you get to that data directly. However, there are some subtle surprises when you're doing like if let and so on. So if we assign the guard a name with a let statement, you can see when it'll be dropped, and that's pretty easy. That's the easy part. However, if you don't, let's see, if you use a guard without assigning it a name, it's possible. So right here, this is not giving it a name. But the interesting part is that if you're doing like an if let here, then it gives you this what's it called? It'll kind of keep the guard around inside this scope here. So if you have like a list, you're calling it list, and it's a mutex, and you lock and you unwrap and you pop and try to get the first item, and if it gives you a sum, then you call this other function and you process the item. But if you're doing that, then it's the guard is still around there, even though you haven't given it a variable name. So if our intention was to lock the list, pop an item, unlock the list, and then process the item, then you made a mistake, a subtle mistake here, because the temporary guard is not dropped here. It's not dropped until the end of here. So inside here, you're still holding on to the lock, even though you didn't give it a name. So keep an eye out for that. And also here, if you do this, this does not happen, right? So this is a different case. Does not happen for a similar if statement. So if you have a list.lock.unwrap.pop equals sum, if you have an if statement, it does not have that subtle effect, and that is because The temporary guard does get dropped before the body of the if statement, and that's because an if statement is just a plain Boolean, and Booleans can't borrow anything. So here you're doing this. This is borrowing the data for a bit, but if, I guess, is it's a Boolean, so it's just going to you're matching this against this, and so in that case there is what is it? Yeah, there you go. Cannot borrow anything. So very, very subtle here. There's no, and then there's some code down here that's like a more recommended, clearer way to avoid having to remember these subtleties. So if let's see, there's no reason to extend the lifetime of temporaries from the condition to the end of the statement in a Boolean, I guess, and an if-let statement, however, that might not be the case. You might be using a method that borrows from the list, and you have to keep the guard around. And so the way to kind of make your code clearer and not have to worry about this is you move the pop operation to a separate let statement. Let item equals blah blah blah, and then you can then the guard is dropped at the end of that statement before the if let. So that's definitely something that I would not have noticed until reading this book.